Welcome into the NBA Morning Deuce. Sunday, January 24th. It is
11:06 p.m., Joey, on the East Coast, of course.
on the East Coast. Overreactions. We got some overreactions. I have some overreactions for the fifth week of the NBA season that we're going to go through today. We also had 7 games on the NBA slate tonight. That, of course, because the Memphis game was postponed. And they just announced today that their game on Wednesday has been postponed. So that's now 20 games that have been postponed this season in the NBA. But whatever. There may be a solution around the corner, and it may involve and it may not involve humans. We will get into that in the show. So I think what I want to do is before we get into the overreactions, because some of the overreactions will probably correlate with some of the games today. We'll run through the games that are finished. But anyways, Portland and New York, as we're recording this, are playing. It's halftime. Portland is up 70-50 at halftime. Tom Thibodeau continues to be one of the more frustrating head coaches in the NBA. But hey, the Knicks are winning games, so I guess you can't be that frustrated. But he just does some stuff that I get it why a fan base would not be in love with that guy. I also want to say this. Something that I was just watching Aaron Rodgers' press conference after they lost to the Bucks. And I will say, for the Kyrie Irvings and Kyrie's the guy who sticks out. But any professional athlete, right, that's a big name and has to deal with the media on a regular basis, it should be required viewing to just watch the way Aaron Rodgers handles the media after like a loss like this. That, who knows, maybe the last chance he ever has to go to a Super Bowl. We don't know, right? Because, man, they ask some dog shit questions. And he is so professional. He even will say, like, good question to some of these guys. Like, man, some of these questions are so bad. And he answers it as best as he can. He doesn't, like, lash out. He doesn't say, like, man, I just lost. And, he's professional about it. I like watching Aaron Rodgers. This is when guys come into professional sports leagues. They should make them watch guys like Aaron Rodgers, even guys like, I guess LeBron's usually pretty good when he does post game, but like stuff like that, like they should make them watch these guys and be like, look, life would be so much easier if you just take this route. Like this route is the way to go to not have everyone hate you.
We should put together our own seminar, our own like YouTube-based seminar for incoming rookies. Just do them a favor.
My
Get
whole
together
seminar
our
would
best
be
clips, and
my
I'm
whole
saying
seminar.
we would curate the best examples.
Just watch the NFC Championship press conference.
That's
all
the
you
whole
gotta
seminar?
watch. I mean, I was watching and just like I felt awkward hearing some of the questions that the media was asking him. They're just so bad. Like, Aaron, are there games in your career that haunt you, and is this going to be one of them? Or
That's really bad. That's really, really bad.
Or hey, Aaron, you've mentioned in the past that even in wins, there's plays from games that keep you up at night. When you had the free play on the offsides and you missed Devontae Adams, is that one of the plays that's going to keep you up at night? Like,
I love when
what
in
the
the
fuck
question
are we talking about?
when in the question you can already foresee the headline that this person's going to try to use in their story. Like,
Exactly. But he, to his credit, and that's why I bring it up, any player could learn a thing or two just from his answers because it's just so professional. But anyways, I just thought of that as was. All right, let's go through Sunday's NBA games. It's enough at NFL. I guess it wasn't really NFL.
Some good crossover, some sports crossover there.
So let's go through the games that are done. 6 games are done. As I said, the Portland Knicks game looks like it's going to be a blowout. So before we do the overreactions, let's hit some of the games from today. Start with the Pacers. The Raptors beat the Pacers. The Raptors now all of a sudden 5 of their last 6 and jumping right back into Eastern Conference playoff contention. I guess this is probably more of what we anticipated before the season, right? That they would be bottom of the East playoffs, like fighting to be in the playoffs. We didn't think they would be worst one of the worst teams in the NBA.
Right.
But we also didn't think they'd be good. Interestingly enough about this game is that they beat the Pacers without Kyle Lowry and Pascal Siakam.
Very interesting.
And OG Anunoby, in this 5 out of 6, OG Anunoby's averaging like 19 a game. He's starting to come on, and who knows if he can develop into into the guy for them, maybe they could be decent. Mm-hmm. I don't take a whole lot from them winning 506, but they're getting something going.
Yeah. I was almost certain that his OG Anunoby's 30 points tonight were going to be a career high. They're not. He scored 32 in a game last year. But the way he's playing, you got to wonder if his role has to increase in terms of shots, because he's averaging like 10 points a game in his career, I think, right around there. And, they paid him a lot of money, and Siakam's coming back to earth. He's having a down year given his stats from last year. So maybe Anunoby has to get more shots, and that'll help this team claw their way into the playoffs. But that's a nice win. Pacers, man, I still am so impressed by them without LeVert. Like, they lose a huge chunk of scoring in the Oladipo trade, and they don't have LeVert back. So,
yeah, that's what I was going to say. And one of my bigger takeaways from this is that they have not looked very good since the trade. Part of it was that Miles Turner was out, but also part of it is, like you said, they don't have a lot of depth without Oladipo, and also they still don't have TJ Warren. So they really don't have, like, outside of, Brogdon's been playing really well, but they don't have a go-to wing scorer until they get LeVert or TJ Warren back. So it's going to be tough for them. I mean, like, dude, 1 of 10 from the field for Sabonis, 1 of 10 from 3 for Brogdon. It's just a rough night.
Yeah, they had a really bad game, and the Raptors only won by 5. So that's the takeaway.
Sabonis had 10 points and 19 rebounds.
He plays so hard. I really do love his game.
Miles Turner had 6 blocks. Like, he's going to get Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah,
it's absurd what he's doing.
To enter a game averaging 4 blocks and then have it go up at the end of the day is pretty wild.
Yeah. But, yeah, but as far as this game, like, I am worried a little in terms for the Pacers that if they don't get LeVert back, like, who knows what's going on.
That would be very bad.
That would be devastating for this year because we've talked about it so much. The East is up in the air. Like, it's there for the taking. I don't know that even with LeVert and TJ that they can win the East, but they are competitive and they would give a lot of teams a run in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. But if they can't get at least one of these guys back, it's going to be they're starting Doug McDermott right now.
Yes,
there's not a lot there.
They're shorthanded. And the flip side of that is if they get both guys back and both guys are playing like we know they're capable of, they really are a threat. And maybe not to win the East, but at least get to the Eastern Conference Finals in my mind.
They're a threat to 100% a threat to surprise a high-seeded team and knock them out of the playoffs.
Yes.
A la Nuggets, Clippers, or that's what it was, right? Something around because they are talented and they play hard.
Also, if say that first round matchup is Milwaukee, Indiana, I'm gonna have a hard time picking that series. Truly,
that's fair if they're healthy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
All right, moving on. Gordon Hayward, dude, like this guy, pretty absurd what he's doing this year.
Yeah.
I texted you after the Hornets game tonight, asking, is it possible that Gordon Hayward could get Most Improved Player? And you said you don't think it's possible for a guy who's been an all-star to be Most Improved. But he is having a career year, and it is just 2 years removed from, snapping his leg. And this team is, like, competitive. They could compete for an 8 seed when no one thought – and then everyone killed him for having, the worst contract of the one of the worst contracts of the offseason at 30 years old. 39 against them. They were getting beat down. They outscored the Magic 33-18 in the fourth quarter. He had 13 in the fourth quarter, had a game-winning layup, and then put it away with a free throw. He's playing out of his mind. He's shooting 50, 40, 90. He's averaging close to 25 a game. Like, if he was on a good team, like a top-level team, we'd be talking about him in the MVP conversation.
With these numbers, I think absolutely. Yeah, I was just dead. A thing I was just dead wrong about in the offseason. I hammered this move.
Who wasn't?
And nobody ever said like Gordon Hayward wasn't a good player. They just thought he was overpaid, but he looks worth every penny right now.
He was having the best year of his career.
Yeah.
So I don't think anyone thought after his injuries after playing just okay in Boston and being 30 years old, no one thought he was going to come to Charlotte and basically carry them right now to being a relevant team because
they're in the conversation for that 8 seed. Like,
and I'll tell you what, Rozier has come crashing back down to earth. Devontae Graham has had a bad year. You got James Borrego, their head coach, out publicly in the media saying that if LaMelo Ball is going to turn the ball over 5 times in 16 minutes, he's not going to play. Like, so, you know, it's what he's doing there. It's unfortunately what's going to happen is he might make the All-Star team. He probably will. But this will largely be a forgotten year because he won't win any awards because he's in Charlotte. They very well may not make the playoffs, and everyone's just going to forget about it. Which I was thinking about, there's going to be a lot of years there's going to be a lot of players like that this year just because of how weird the year is that have really good years, and then everyone just kind of forgets.
Yeah, I do. I mean, that All-Star would be another like a nice feather in his cap. You know, I think you can't keep him off the All-Star team right now unless something great unless he really plummets. But
I mean, it's tough, dude, because 24 a game is a lot, but it's not a lot this year. It's not a lot in the NBA. Like, there's a lot of wings by the time we get to All-Star break. Now, there's not going to be an All-Star game, so it doesn't matter. But it matters just to get voted because it goes on your career resume.
Yep.
But again, you're talking about that specific position. There are so many guys.
I just think
so many wing players.
The efficiency with which he's doing it, I think, gives him the edge over a lot of guys. But we were talking about that the other day, where it's like, Jesus, is Julius Randle going to get kept off this thing? Like,
exactly, that's what I'm saying. Like, and they're better than the Hornets right now, the Knicks. So I don't know. But good for him. I mean, and on the other side, the Magic are a mess, and it's just like.
Yeah, what are you going to do? What can you do when your core pieces are just dinged up left and right? I mean, you got to Vucevic, man. That career is toiling out of control.
But I mean, what's his upside?
I always thought he could be honestly, the second best player on a very good team. Never the best, but
I don't know. He's sort of a major liability defensively.
That's true.
I just remember when the interesting thing is, like, you kind of go back to your experiences in certain situations, and I'll never forget when he came and worked out for us in Charlotte. Like, I remember watching his draft workout, and I was like, this guy can't succeed in the NBA. He can't jump. He was the most unathletic workout I've ever seen.
Wow.
He was skilled, but he wasn't this skilled.
Yeah.
Like, he could shoot it a little bit, and you saw some of the skill, but he was so unathletic. It was just like, how could this guy guard anybody in the NBA? He's still not a great defensive player, but he is. I mean, he's skill-wise is crazy for what he is. I mean, he's gonna largely his career because they're not ever gonna let him go.
No, and why would he? He's gonna get another solid contract there, I would imagine, sometime. Yeah. But I just feel like he's a guy we'll remember in 15 years. Like, oh yeah, that guy, that guy was good.
All right, moving on. Wizards played basketball today.
Crazy.
Which is, I mean, that's pretty crazy. That's actually probably one of the bigger stories in the NBA, at least this weekend.
Yeah.
This team, they missed, 6 or 7. They haven't played since January 13th. They've missed at least 6 games, I think. Maybe, I don't know. However many they've been postponed.
They've only played 12 on the season.
And they got absolutely smacked by the Spurs. Now, they are shorthanded. A lot of their guys are still out because of the COVID stuff and whatever. But, people are catching on to what you've been saying for a while on Twitter, that Russell Westbrook just flat out stinks. There's a possession floating around out there that was on Twitter that people are just crushing him for, where he brings it down in transition, goes one-on-one, kind of fumbles it in the paint, gets it back, dribbles back out to the three-point line, drives into the paint, and then just turns it over. He turned it over twice on the same possession without making a pass.
I like Russell Westbrook is the thing. I just think he doesn't have
I get it.
His game doesn't work right now in the league. He was minus 20 tonight.
But again, this is now the more I look back on it, it's just like that trade. Although you had to come off of John Wall, it just didn't. This team it's built so weird because you have Beal, who's in his prime and one of the better players in the league. You have Russ, who's clearly past his prime but can still play a little bit. And then you got a bunch of younger guys who you want to see what they got. A lot of these guys didn't play. I have a theory. I think I texted you this about the Wizards and their games being postponed. My thought process here is that the league probably intends to not reschedule these games, and they will hold out on rescheduling the Wizards games until they see if they become mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, which by all accounts, they're so bad that it may happen relatively quickly after the second half of the season.
Yeah.
So they may never have to play those games. That might be part of why the league is just like letting the Wizards toil away, because where are they? Like they're now 3-9, I think.
3-9. Yep.
They're 3-9. They're not going to win many games this year, and they may even get to a point where they're going to have to trade Brad Beal. He may ask, like they might get worse. So the league, I think, probably intends to not reschedule these games, if I had to guess.
Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. It just, in that scenario, you're talking about some teams getting screwed that don't get to play the Wizards. Like, if there's a team that's, a game or two out of a playoff position and you're looking at your schedule like, well, shit, we had a win against the Wizards here if we could have played that game. Yeah. But, I mean, you're just going to have to take getting screwed.
Just to answer, Jamie Gibson asked, did Westbrook play? Westbrook. Yeah, he went 3 of 11, 9.
Yes, Westbrook was out there.
He went 3 of 11 in 25 minutes and scored 9 points. He's not in good shape. He does not look good out there. Spurs are the Spurs. Not going to talk about the Spurs. What else? Who else? Oh, Celtics blew out the Cavs. The Cavs were playing really well up until this game. I mean, I don't know if there's anything to kind of. I don't know that you can blame the Cavs for getting blown out by a team. They're the Cavs. Mm-hmm. When I was watching this game, I just keep thinking the Cavs look like they're becoming a farm team for the rest of the league.
It does seem a lot like
they've got a lot of really good players, but not any players that are going to lead you anywhere. But a lot of players that every other team would love to have.
Yeah.
Although Sexton's playing
I was going to say, I wouldn't be surprised if they think Colin Sexton is a guy to take them to the next level.
I'm sure they do because it's really hard to get franchise players, and Colin Sexton is their it's hard to get a franchise player. And when you have a guy who looks like he may have potentially be a franchise type player, okay, yeah, you gotta do what you can do, but he's not. He's a point guard. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's a relatively undersized point guard too. I'm not even sure what happened here. He only played 16 minutes, I think, maybe because...
Yeah, I think this thing just got so out of hand early in the third quarter that Andre Drummond got 18 minutes. They punted on this game. But I'm with you. Their roster is not bad at all. It's just there's no star power. There's nothing...
It's young, and they don't have the guy, right? Mm-hmm. They don't have that guy, and they're never going to get that guy.
I think I said it a couple weeks ago. I would not be shocked if this team grab the 8 seed. I'm not kidding. I think it's possible.
I don't think so. I think they're going to lose a lot of games. But it's not anything that's their fault. They're just not – they're young, And I will say they stole Jared Allen the more I think about it. That kid is – I can't believe he's only 22 years old. I think I really lost that when I was watching him earlier in the year. Didn't realize he's so young. What are the Rockets – what are the Rockets thinking – just why would they not want him in that deal?
Yeah, demand him in that. And I think the more I think about that...
They didn't have to demand him. There must be a reason why they didn't want him.
Right.
They could have just made him part of what they got in the deal. Mm-hmm. Makes no sense.
Well, they also bizarrely wanted Oladipo instead of LeVert. They may have botched that whole thing when I think about it more. It's really weird.
Yeah, for sure. By the way, what about my guy JaVale McGee?
Yo, that
play of the year
clip was electric. If
for those
anybody listening hasn't seen this play, I'm not even going to describe it because you need to go see it.
Well, I'll describe it.
Okay, Joel will describe
it. He got a defensive rebound, pushed it in transition. 2 men, for some reason, there was 2 guys at half court that tried to pick up JaVale McGee in transition instead of just getting back. He went behind the back, but instead of dribbling behind the back, he dribbled between his legs behind the back. And then kept going, and instead of giving it off to anybody, took 1 step in the paint and dunked it like he was Giannis. It was insane. It was absurd.
The dribble move at half court was because he was at full speed. It's not like he had time. He's
right?
loping down the court. It probably only took him like 6 strides to go the length of the court, and he pulls this move between his legs behind the back like it was nothing. It was really awesome.
It was wild. It was I mean, I love him. Okay.
Yes, that's
It's
pretty established. And
very well
I'm
established that I love JaVale McGee. And by the way, there was a report this weekend that the Nets may go after JaVale McGee. Perfect. He'd be perfect for them. But he's better than DeAndre Jordan right now. I know people might on the surface be like, oh, no. I mean, DeAndre Jordan, JaVale McGee, watch the games. Like, people who are going to say that he's not better right now don't watch the games. JaVale McGee he looks really good right now. And they just need him. They need rim protection. They need another big who can, I mean, man, he's just better offensively than DeAndre Jordan. He's more athletic right now. They're going to struggle to defend if they don't get another rim protector. Mm-hmm. They just are. So
part of me thinks they should have just made sure he was folded into that trade and got him in the first place. You know what I mean?
I feel like they might be like everybody else, just not watching Cavs games and not know how good he's playing this year.
Yeah. Because I mean, for them. Don't you think? I mean, who would you rather have right now, like TLC or him? You know, like
for that team, him.
Yes, yeah. So
yeah,
I don't know. They could have worked something out during that actual trade. It was big enough already.
Yeah. It's for the Celtics in this one. Kemba looked pretty good, 21 points in 23 minutes. So he's getting back. He's not playing tomorrow, so I guess he's not playing back-to-backs yet. But he looked good. This is one of those things. This is just gonna kind of happen when you have Jaylen Brown against the Cavs, right? You have a top 20 sick NBA player against a decent to bad team, you know. So, all right. So the next 2 games correlate a little bit to 2 of my overreactions for the week. Okay, so we'll start with. Should we start with the Clippers or should we start with the Hawks?
Let's start with the Clippers because I think there's something special is going to happen with the Hawks discussion here.
Okay. So the Clippers won. The Clippers beat OKC today, 108-100. They've won 7 games in a row. They have the best record in the NBA, and I'm still not sold. Like it's not even remotely. Which is weird because they're playing great basketball. Particularly Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. Paul George, both of them are having MVP type seasons, right? Paul George is still 50-50-90 his shooting splits right now, which is just absurd. Kawhi is pretty close to 50-40-90. They're both averaging 25 a game. But I look back at last year with this team, and through 17 games last year, they were 12-5. And at that point, they were in the midst of their longest win streak of the season, which was 7 games. So, and I don't think this team got better. Like, I don't think their roster got better. I'm just looking around. Like, Lou Will doesn't look good, which is huge. If he doesn't play well for them, that's rough. And they're playing like Reggie Jackson and Luke. They're just playing a bunch of guys who aren't very good. Pat Beverly still stinks. And this win streak, Bulls, Pelicans, Kings twice, Thunder twice, and the Pacers, who didn't have Miles Turner, didn't have Oladipo. I'm not buying them yet. I just can't buy them being over the hump, or like them turning a corner. Like, are they one of the best teams in the NBA? Talent-wise, yes. I still don't think they can win the West.
Right. And, I mean, we're looking at it through the scope of, like, their expectations. Like, anything short of Western Conference Finals is a bad season for this team with the moves they've made and the star power they have. So,
right.
I mean, at this point last year, basically the entire regular season last year, it was almost, in my mind, like a foregone conclusion we were going to see Clippers-Lakers in the Western Conference Finals. It didn't happen because of a debacle. So I'm not going to make that same mistake this year. Like, it looks like it's going to be Clippers-Lakers, but Clippers have to prove that they can beat a very, very good team in the playoffs, you know? So they haven't done it with this roster yet.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I do think it looks like an overreaction because we're talking about a team that's 13-4 and has 2 MVP candidates on it.
And has won 7 in a row and has the best record in the NBA.
Yeah, but I mean, this playoff basketball is so different from the regular season.
I'm also not totally convinced that they don't fall apart during the regular season.
And what, drop out like to what, 4 or 5 seed or something like that?
Just hit some lulls,
Yeah.
have some struggle. I mean, they're because all it takes is Kawhi or Paul George, one of these two guys, to not play the way they're playing right now, out of their minds, because the rest of the team is not very good.
Mm-hmm. Especially with Lou Will not giving you the scoring power you usually get from him year in and year out.
So, yeah, I'm not sold on them winning the West or being in the West. I'm just not sold that this team still isn't going to implode at some point. I just don't.
It's fair.
I don't trust Ty Lue. There's a lot of things about this team when I watch them. I don't buy it.
Yeah.
And they also have given up big leads this year to good teams. So that's still there. That's still part of what they do. So we'll see. Then the last game, well, we didn't really talk about the game, but Kawhi, I mean, they beat OKC by 8. OKC, I get it, they play hard, but OKC is not very good. Kawhi had 34. Paul George didn't have a great game, so his splits will probably go down. But look at. Okay, so they're still starting Nick Batum, and then their bench is their main guys off the bench are Luke Kennard, Zubats, Lou Will, who went 1 of 9 from the field, Patrick Patterson,
And Reggie Jackson.
Yeah. That's not good. That's not good, especially when Pat Beverly, Nick Batum are 2 of the guys in your starting lineup.
Yeah.
And Serge, who's very good, but still a little older.
Ibaka's minutes are low this year, right? He's averaging.
Well, Zubac is playing well for them, but ultimately in the playoffs, it's going to have to be Serge.
It has to be. So maybe they're just trying to keep him fresh, I guess. That would
he is old. He is older.
Yeah.
Yeah, this team I don't think has it. I just don't. I mean, we'll see in the playoffs. I wouldn't be shocked if they made it to the Western Conference Finals this year, but they have no shot against the Lakers, to me. It's a 4-1 series. I'm calling it right now. If it happens, it's 4-1.
Mark it. Time code. Somebody let us know.
And then the last game, other than the game that's going on, was the Bucks. The Bucks beat the Hawks 129-115. Trae Young and Capella did not play in this game. Look, for the Bucks, the Hawks have actually been playing pretty good basketball, so Bobby Portis is playing really good for the Bucks. He looks like he's a really good pickup coming off the bench for them. Giannis did his Giannis thing, 27, 14, and 8. They're just going through the motions, I think, a little bit at this point.
They're just such a powerful regular season team.
Right.
Like they're gonna just dominate people in the regular season. We know that.
Yeah, the story for this game is more about the Hawks to me. So watching this game, one of my immediate takeaways was they missed Capella in this game way more than they missed Trae Young.
We should mention Capella was coming off of 2 of the most unique lines in NBA history.
Yeah, he had a triple-double with blocks.
Yeah.
And then he had a 26 and 26 game, or 27 and 26.
Something stupid, yeah. And
rebounds.
He added 5 blocks to that game, which put him in the company of like 6 guys to ever do 25, 25, and 5. Yeah. So he's just playing out of his mind.
We've talked about it a couple times on this show that this team has been winning games because of their defense, not because of their offense.
Which is weird.
And then if you look at this game, they scored 115 points. John Collins had 30. DeAndre Hunter had 33. I think they missed Capella more, right, defensively, because they started the kid Okongwu, who is a rookie, and then they played Gallinari 18 minutes, who he had 17, but he can't move. Defensively, he is a major liability for this team. They're having injury issues. They don't have Bogdanovich for a long time. So, but when I watch this game, and here's my second overreaction for this week. I watch this game, and I think, and I've watched the Hawks a few times this year, and I've talked about this guy a couple times in his development and how I'm shocked at how he's developed already. Hawks fans, maybe Hawks or the Hawks organization, they may have to come to the realization sooner than later that the future of this team is DeAndre Hunter and it's not Trae Young. And there's a lot of conversations about paying John Collins and Trae Young struggling and Trae and John and flying under the radar, DeAndre Hunter is developing into one of those guys that you just can't go out and replace. He's turning into a legitimate like two-way wing player who can score at any level, who can shoot the ball from three. He's up from 35% last year to 39% this year. Who he can take it to the rim, he can score off the dribble. He basically does a little bit of everything offensively. Every year now, like teams are trying to find that guy who's like the Kawhi type, like that. We go through like phases of like, how do we find the next this guy? How do we find? And ever since Kawhi went 15th, and then they saw what he developed into, they get comparisons like, oh, you could be. This is the guy who's closest since Kawhi's been drafted that I can see. Of a guy who in college seemed limited offensively, and now all of a sudden looks like he could be one of the better Like I think next year he's going to be an all-star.
Oh, I can see it, but I wouldn't have said that quickly. But I mean, he just looks fantastic.
He had 33 career high.
This is one of those ones on this. This is like I'd say since Overreactions, this one on the surface looks like that's a very bold claim, but. Just the way this team looks when Trae Young is out there just jacking up like 25 shots, they just don't look dangerous. They just look like it's like, okay, if Trae Young shoots well, it'll be a good game. If he doesn't shoot well, team's going to get annihilated. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of the point you've made for so long about these point guards and that shoot a lot. But a wing player like DeAndre Hunter can win you a game in different ways on the floor. And I'm with you. I mean, he's got to be like continue this all season for me to probably be where you are on him, but I don't think it's out of the question at all. The guy just looks tough, and
I think what the Hawks have the makings of right now with DeAndre Hunter, John Collins, and Capella is an absolutely lockdown, one of the best defensive teams in the NBA. With two guys who could average 25 in DeAndre Hunter and John Collins. And Capella at 25 years old, who is clearly way better than what the Rockets thought he was, which whatever the hell they were thinking. But the problem's going to become if you continue to try to build your organization around Trae. Eventually, you're not going to be able to afford everybody. Mm-hmm. And you're going to have to make decisions on paying guys. And Trae Young's just good. He's just good. And people get really defensive when you say Trae Young's not a great player. Trae Young's a good player. That's it. He's a good player. Like, he's a 34% career three-point shooter through 3 years. He's shooting 34% from three this year. That's not good for a shooter. It's not. He's shooting 41% from the field, which is up over the last week or so. Because before the past week when they went on this little run, he was shooting like 36% from the field. He's been horrendous this year. And they were struggling really badly up until the last week or so when they went on a little win streak. And now they've had injury issues. Gallinari, like I said, hasn't played a ton, and even when he's out there, he looks like he can't move a ton. Bogdanovich hasn't played. But I think they're going to have to come to this realization. Just watching DeAndre Hunter, I haven't seen there's not a lot of guys in the league watching as many games as I do that I look at him and I'm like, man, this guy's he's got the complete package to be like a superstar in this league, like a true superstar in this league. I don't think I say that pretty light. I don't think I just say that.
No, it's a super bold claim, and it's kind of definitely exciting if you're a Hawks fan,
or anybody. There's just not a lot of guys like that. We talk about it all.
Yeah.
Wings are the most important position in the league because there's so few elite wings. And there's just not a lot of wings in the league right now that I look around and I watch him play and I'm like, there's not a lot of wings that have the same skill set and upside that this guy has. And it is amazing because, again, I will openly say, coming out of college, I was like, how is this guy going to be the fourth pick? He can't. He's a stretch four who's 6'7", 6'8". Like, but nope. I was wrong on that. That kid is not. He is not a four. He is a legit three, who can do a little bit of everything. Plus, he got absolutely wrecked by Giannis going for a dunk tonight and still had 33.
It's awesome. So, I mean, it's a hell of a claim to say to go. Hawks have to go with the future of their team being DeAndre Hunter just because of the numbers Trae Young puts up. But I can't say I'm against
numbers. Can tell. You can tell stories with any numbers can tell any story.
Yeah, I mean, how many guys have we seen their whole career be unbelievable scorers, and it just seems like that's not the best way for their team to win games, down the stretch and in the playoffs and that sort of thing.
Here these two guys, John Collins and DeAndre Hunter, went 25 of 40 for 63 points against the Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Just looking at this team from a bigger picture, we haven't even mentioned guys like Cam Reddish and another lottery pick in Ngakwu. Like, there is so much talent.
Was Ngakwu a lottery pick?
Yeah, I think he was like the 6th pick in the draft this year. Yeah, he was the 6th pick this year. There's so much talent on this team. It just
Kevin
seems
Huerter.
It just seems pretty clear that with the amount of young talent on this team, that you might not want to have so much of your offense in one 6-foot guy.
They should trade Brad Beal to the Wizards. I mean, they should trade Trae Young to the Wizards for Brad Beal.
That would be. I mean, if I'm the Wizards, there's no shot I would do that, but that would be amazing.
I mean, that's probably going to be the best player you'll get, like just straight up best player.
Right. I mean, I just think I'd rather a shitload of picks and.
Well, you have to give him a bunch of picks too.
Yeah.
But I'm saying in addition, I know people will think it's crazy that I'm like ready to just trade away Trae Young. I see the writing on the wall of how this team is built right now, and I think eventually you're going to have to make those decisions. And Trae Young, I see DeAndre Hunter as a guy who, if he continues this progression, could be a number one player on a great team because of what his skill set and his upside are. Trae Young has no chance of that, right? If Trae Young's the best player in your organization, you're not going to a championship. It's just it's never going to happen.
I'm with you on that.
And people can talk about development and upside and all that, but I think like even with a guy like Steph, we saw pretty early on in his career like this dude is special. This dude is going to do big things in this league. And not that Trae is not doing big things. Averaging 25 is not easy. But I think we've also very quickly seen what his limitations are.
Mm-hmm. And they're glaring.
Not saying, and I'm not saying, I'm saying Trae Young's a good player. Trae Young's a good player. This team has hitched their wagon to him. And the question becomes, for Travis Schlenk, who by all accounts is a good GM, he's done a great job drafting. He obviously can evaluate talent. You have to make the tough decision, right? Like Sam Presti over 10 years ago. He had to decide who was the guy. Who are you keeping? He made the wrong decision, right? He let James Harden walk. It's not an easy decision, but that's the difference between being a GM who can just evaluate talent and a GM who can build a championship team. And I look, I'm not a GM. This is just from what I'm seeing, but guys like DeAndre Hunter don't come along often.
I think that's my favorite overreaction of the series. I'm actually glad I didn't have one this week because we spent a lot of time on two really, really good ones with the Clippers and DeAndre Hunter.
Yeah.
So that's one I want to keep an eye on.
Yeah. All right. Here's my other two overreactions for this week. Well, one's not really an overreaction. One's sort of an absurdity, but I put it in the overreactions. But before that, the MVP of this season will be a center. Unless it's Kevin Durant. But if it's not Kevin Durant, and part of the reasoning why I say it probably won't be is because outside of then the centers that I'm talking about are right now are Joel Embiid and Nikola Jokic, who, if you go to Basketball Reference's MVP tracker, I don't know how accurate that is, like when you get to the end of the year, but right now Jokic is 1, Embiid is 2. And I'll go through their stats in a second, but the reason why, partially why I believe this too, is, okay. I guess Luka could still get it. He's having a good year, but they're struggling. I guess if the Warriors continue to improve, Steph could get it. But like a guy like Kevin Durant, he also has James Harden and Kyrie. So I think people will take, if that team plays really well and they all start playing well, that's one of those things where people will not split the vote, but take votes away, right? Because he's got a super team. Like LeBron and AD, I just don't, as great as LeBron is, I just don't think he's going to get it because people are going to, and then the same thing with Kawhi and Paul George. Neither of them can get MVP because they split, right? But these two guys, I mean, these guys are having the most absurd seasons. And this would be the first time since 2000 that a center would win MVP.
Wow.
Shaq was the last center to win MVP.
That's pretty wild.
But right now, Jokic, they're on a win streak. They're back in like the playoff mix. So they're starting to get it together, the Nuggets. 26 a game, 12 rebounds, 9.8 assists. So basically averaging a triple-double.
He's second in the league in his assists. It's insane.
Yeah, he's also fourth in the league in steals. He's averaging 1.9 steals a game.
Wow.
56% from the field, 35% from three. Leads the NBA in triple-doubles. He's first in PER, first in win shares, and first in value over replacement. Just like
that's a resume. That is an MVP resume.
And then you got Embiid, who's averaging 28 basically, 27.7, 11.5 rebounds, a block and a half, a steal and a half, 55% from the field, which is huge for me because it's career high. He's never averaged 50% from the field in his career, which is also an absurd stat. But it shows that he's either coaching or he has taken he's learned or he's improved or whatever it is. He's also shooting 40% from three, which does not bode well for my thought that he should never shoot any threes. He is shooting 40% from three, which is also a career high.
How many is he averaging? How many is he averaging a game? I'm just curious.
I don't know. I didn't see that. I think it's like 3 or 4.
Okay.
He's 6th in individual defensive rating. He's 3rd in box plus minus, 2nd in PER, and 2nd in win shares. So, and they have the best record in the East. I think one of these guys, I legitimately think one of these guys is going to get it, and I lean Embiid if he continues to play this way, because I think they have a very good chance to finish the regular season with the best record in the East.
I do too. That would get it done. I really think if he stays healthy and they have the best record in the East, I think he gets the MVP.
Yeah.
But
if Jokic averages a triple-double,
then it's going to be very tough.
I think since Russ got it averaging a triple-double, the value of the triple-double has gone down a little bit.
Yeah. I do think it would be like just a guy that size averaging 10 assists is like just Jokic. Like unfathomable. But to your point, there's something really, really askew with the current MVP odds. So, like,
you told me that.
If you agree with us on this, you take a look at the MVP odds in your book, because right now Luka's still the favorite, and on my book, LeBron and I think Kawhi are 2nd and 3rd in like odds. So there's some value there because Embiid's plus 1,100. And you made the point of, maybe Vegas doesn't think he's really capable of finishing the season, which is valid because he's only done that once.
It's also possible that Vegas is looking at it like this is such a weird year that everything will regress back to what they initially thought.
Yeah, and that's how Vegas, that's how they make so much money, is not overreacting to things. But both those guys are having special seasons.
We're just about 20 games into the year. Some teams have played like 18, 19 games. So it's not like this is a small sample size. We're almost like we're over a quarter of the way through the season at this point. Now, again, if Kevin Durant averages 31 and leads the league in scoring, and the Nets are in the top 2 or 3 in the East, I think just coming off of the torn Achilles, he'll probably get it.
Yeah. I do too, but I will say I think LeBron has a shot at it too this year. I really do. If the Lakers have to win the West, they probably are. But if for some reason the Clippers edge them out in the West, he is not going to win it. But I just think the LeBron fatigue may have worn off, and he's going to get votes this year.
I'll say this: I think if Philly has the best record. And Embiid averages 27 a game. I think he's going to get it because I would say this. I think a lot of writers, and I still think it's absurd that the writers are the ones who choose MVP, because they're humans. They have their own biases and stuff. So it's like, I know every MVP voter says that they are not biased and this and that, but that's bullshit. Like they have their own.
That is bullshit. Even
in the back of their mind, they have their. So Embiid came into the league with all the promise, right? People loved his people love his personality. He's like joking and doing all this shit on social media, and everyone was like, "Oh, this guy, he's young, he's talented, But then they kept losing, and he kept sitting out games, and then it started to wear on people. Like he does all this shit instead of just being a good player. He's like talking shit and on social media and this and that. And now he's silent. He doesn't say shit anymore. And now they're the best team. And I think there's going to be a lot of people in the media who are like, I said 2 years ago that if Embiid would just shut up and play, he would be an MVP. And look at him now. He's shutting up and he's playing, and now he's an MVP. So there's going to be that mentality.
Definitely. The big factor in play here is, what happened this offseason? Got that baby juice. He wiped that baby juice on.
Yeah. God, I don't have that drop right.
The soundboard, Chris Webber from the rafters.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've actually seen that a lot in sports. Guys having their first child and then kind of being more businesslike in how they operate. I think it's not even like a cliche anymore. Like guys have a first kid and they take things more seriously, which looks like is exactly what's happening.
I don't know what it's going to take for Jokic to get it. I guess they would have to finish top 2 or 3.
Yes, definitely.
But I still think others would have to sort of fall off. I just don't know that he'll get I don't think he'll get the votes. I think people love him, and he's having an incredible season. And if he finishes averaging a triple-double, he'll be in the mix. But there's just something about him, and I don't think he's going to get I don't think he'll get I don't think he'll get the votes. There's no narrative there.
Yeah, well, yeah. I
think the MVP always a lot of times becomes about narrative.
Maybe
that's why you're right about LeBron, probably.
We should start boosting this narrative of former fat kid turned stud. Like, there's your narrative right there.
Yeah, I think everyone knows that.
Well, bring it back. I didn't know it till this year, believe it or not.
Yeah, but he's not the first one. Have you ever seen pictures of Marc Gasol from high school?
No.
You should probably take a look at that.
Okay, I'll take a look.
You want to talk about a fat kid turned stud? That guy was he was a fat monster. He was huge. By the way, leading the league in defensive box plus minus this year.
Love it.
Or some stat that I looked up earlier. So all those people hating on Mark, he still got it.
He's going to be a factor in the play. That guy is so damn strong. He's going to be a factor, and maybe against Jokic. To be honest,
and a very good passer, and yeah. But anyways, I think Embiid. If I was going to pick one of these two, I would lean Embiid right now, just because I think they have a really good chance of finishing with the top 1 or 2 record in the East.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I popped $5 on it actually today, plus 1,100 for Embiid.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah.
All right, last overreaction, which I don't even know I don't know how to feel about this, but this is where we're at in the world. COVID-sniffing dogs are going to save the NBA season.
I'm telling you right now, I saw this in the rundown and I thought you were messing with me. I genuinely thought that this was like either you were messing with me or this was like an Onion article that had popped up. And I was like, there's no way. And I read about it, and these dogs, again, in laboratory settings, are like 95% accurate in sniffing out COVID. It's unbelievable.
Well, just for the uninitiated, for the people who don't know this story, the Heat are planning to use COVID or coronavirus, however they put it in I think different articles say different things, but COVID sniffing dogs to sniff fans to allow like that. So basically, I guess that it's in like Europe, in some countries in Europe, in Eastern Europe, and in the Middle East, like in Dubai and UAE, and like the places that are letting people come in or go out, they're using COVID sniffing, like bomb dogs, like bomb sniffing dogs or like missing person sniffing dogs, like those type. They've trained them to be able to smell COVID in people's sweat. And they're using them, and supposedly are 95% accurate. And now the Heat are planning to use them at games to sniff fans, so fans can come in the game. And I guess the process is the dog walks by you, and I guess it's just like if you had drugs, but if the dog walks by, and if the dog keeps walking, you're good. You don't have COVID. And if the dog sits down, you have COVID. Get the fuck out.
And it's like it's laughable, but they're so damn accurate. Now, I do have a concern because I read a bunch of articles.
Now, here's the thing. I'm a science guy. I'm not one of these people who questions scientists because they're much smarter than me. Mm-hmm. I don't know how much I buy this shit.
Here's my concerns, Joey. Okay. And in the couple of experiments I read that they did, the first one was the smelling of the sweat. I mean, that's not in play. Like, they're not going to get sweat samples from these people in line and have the dog
but I think
sniff them.
everyone, I think anyone walking, first of all, when you, in South Florida, where you have to park for Heat games, you are forced to walk at least a couple minutes in South Florida weather. So even if you're not like a profuse sweater, you're going to have a little bit of sweat, and the dog's senses of smell, obviously, if they can do this, they can. So I think that's where.
Okay. Fair enough. My other concern, though, is like you brought up, like, if you're at the airport and there's a dog walking, like he just kind of walks by you, right? And all these experiments, like the dog's got a good whiff, whether it was a piece of cloth or a
Have you seen like the pictures?
No, I don't think
the dogs. It's like this little thing that obviously has like COVID in it, and the dog's noses are like.
That is what I'm getting at. Yeah,
the dog's noses are like in the COVID.
Are they going to have to?
What about this? What if the dogs have COVID?
That was a concern. That there was some experiment that had to make sure the dogs didn't catch it from sniffing this stuff.
Listen, hold on. Here's my thing. It's all transmitted through particles, right?
Okay. Yes.
So if the particles are if the dog is sticking their nose in there close enough to learn the scent of COVID, how are there not particles that they're smelling in?
And then transferring to the next person that they sniff.
And then dogs are transmitting COVID to people now.
Yeah. So we're highlighting a couple times that this could fall apart on them. The most amazing thing about the experiments I read was because to make sure, scientifically that they're getting a real result, they have to do negatives. Like they have to have the dogs sniff people that do not have COVID, mm-hmm. right? And there was 2 failed ones where the dog sat down because they sniffed someone that didn't have COVID, and it turned out they had COVID. they retested them. Like these dogs it's insane. They're sniffing. I think it's a protein released in your sweat or something that or something that COVID your body is breaking down differently that they're smelling. It's amazing. Humans, the fact that we figured that out and are now training dogs to sniff it out, like, unbelievable.
Here's where, I don't even know what I'm trying to say. So if a fan is afraid,
yes,
or allergic to dogs, they can opt out and get a rapid test that would give you results in under 45 minutes. So what you're saying to me is, as a fan of a basketball game, I can just go get a COVID test, a rapid COVID test, but there's still hundreds of thousands of people who can't just go get a COVID test, like a rapid COVID test, and get the results today. So because I'm a fan of the Miami Heat, I can just go get a rapid COVID test. Like if I just had a ton of money and I was like, I'm not feeling great, but I don't want to go wait in line. I don't want to go to a doctor. I don't want to wait for a week to get my results. You know what? I'm gonna pay $100 for a Heat ticket. I'm gonna opt out. I'm gonna opt out of this dog thing, and I'm gonna get a rapid test.
I do think you have to be a season ticket holder to be one of like the 2,000 that gets in there. So you'd have to be rich enough to get some season tickets,
buy tickets from a season ticket holder. Can a season ticket holder just give their tickets to somebody?
Yeah, your point stands. It is great. I mean, As smart
So
as humans are.
all of these rapid tests that could be like being used, they're just sitting at AAA. They're just sitting at American Airlines Arena just in case somebody doesn't want to get sniffed by a dog. I don't know, man.
I just touted out humans. Humans are smart enough to train dogs to sniff out a global pandemic, but
Allegedly.
they're not smart enough to to divvy out the tests properly.
Allegedly, these dogs can sniff.
Yeah.
I don't buy it.
You're very skeptical of these dogs, Joey. I'm actually on board.
That a dog can. Okay, hold on.
They're 95% accurate.
I'm just wondering this. Okay, if they can train dogs to smell COVID, why haven't they trained dogs to smell other diseases?
They have. They have.
Why aren't, if they're 95% accurate, isn't it much cheaper to just have a bunch of dogs smelling for diseases than the way we test for all diseases? Like, why isn't this a regular thing?
It might become, maybe this is the step one of it becoming a regular thing. Dogs are, this is 2021 is the year of the dog.
Or maybe there is a little bit of taking advantage of how much people love dogs and trust dogs.
Because I love dogs, and
everyone loves dogs
yeah.
for the most part. Like you're probably like a psychopathic murderer if you don't like dogs, right? So
just describing my two parents who don't like dogs.
Well, I don't know your parents, but for the most part, people are like, oh, okay, it's a dog. It's probably, I trust a dog. Man's best friend. So people aren't going to question it other than me. They're just going to be like, oh, yeah. And plus, people so desperately want this thing to be done, and people so desperately want to know that they don't have COVID. They're like, oh, well, if they say that this dog is 95% accurate, this dog can tell me that if I have COVID or not, let's do it, bro. I don't have to get anything stuck in my nose.
See, I'm almost as big of a skeptic as you, and I read it in the rundown. There's COVID sniffing dogs, and I said bullshit. I said it out loud. I was like, bullshit, no way. And then I went and I read the scientific, like the peer-reviewed bullshit. It looks like it's real. It looks like these dogs can sniff it out. So we're on different sides of the fence here.
Okay. So
this is our best discussion on the podcast to date, just so you know.
Oh, well, but here's what I want to here's where my skepticism comes in, okay? Like a bomb sniffing dog is sniffing something that you can flat out prove is there. If a dog at an airport sits down in front of a bag and you open the bag, there's either a bomb or there isn't. If a missing person dog sniffs out a body and goes into the woods and starts digging like this, yeah. There's either a body or there isn't. At American Airlines Arena in Miami at a Heat game, if a COVID dog sits down in front of a person, we just have to trust that that dog is right, that that person has COVID, and they're just going to send that person home. But we don't know if that person actually, like, we're just trusting that a dog says that, like, isn't, like, medicine, like,
you're trusting tests.
Hold on. If you went to a doctor and you were like, I feel terrible. I think my throat hurts. I got a fever. And the doctor's like, it sounds like you have strep. Bring in the dog. And then,
after what I read tonight, I'm fine with it.
And so you're at a doctor's office. A dog comes in, smells you, and sits down. Doctor's like, you got strep. You're cool with that?
Yes. After what I read tonight, Joey, I'm cool with it. Why should I trust a test? Why should I trust a little, what are they, like a swab ahead of man's best friend's snout?
Because there's a positive and like a test, there's a result.
But in the testing that they're doing, they let these dogs sniff things that don't have COVID, and they don't sit down.
Travis Elkins is on your side because he says it's a dog's world. We're just living in it. And you know what, Travis? With this story coming out, I think you're right.
Yep.
We clearly are just living in a dog's world because now dogs can tell us if we have COVID or not. I'm
in on it, dude. And I am a skeptic as big as there is out there. But I'm I'm all in on COVID sniffing dogs.
Here's my thing. I just hate that this is where we're at with the NBA.
I know.
Of all the leagues,
it's such a clown show.
We talk about so much about how the NBA is at the forefront of all these things, and right now the NBA looks like the biggest shit show of every league in terms of COVID. And now we're like, got dog.
What if they're out in front with this dog thing, man? This could change it all.
Well, they're obviously out in front with it, but is it
Is it effective?
right? Are they out in front with it because it's a real thing, or are they out in front because they're desperate and they're losing tons of money because people aren't watching these shitty games and they also can't go? I gotta imagine the ratings are just in the toilet right now, and people also are not allowed at the game. Like, the NBA cannot be doing super well right now, which is a shame, right? But even the games that are being played are just, there's a lot of bad games right now, and it's because the best players in the league are having to sit, and teams are being decimated by injuries and COVID. So is this something where it's like, we trust that dogs can sniff COVID? Or is this just another way for them to try to salvage some money this year in a season where it's going down? It seems to be going down the tubes.
You led this thing off with that you are a science guy, man, and the science is backing these dogs.
Hold on. But I'm just saying, like most of the, like, a study like this, from the articles that I read about it, they're saying the skepticism in most of this is that a study like this should take years.
Yes, that is. But
and
that's also...
And it just started, 4 months ago or something? Like, I read an article, in Brussels, that there's a group of dogs that are just getting ready to graduate next week, and they've been training for 6 weeks. So these dogs have been training to sniff out COVID for 6 weeks. You're telling me that a dog can learn in 6 weeks if a person has COVID?
Yes. Because their nose, their olfactory is 300 times as powerful as a human's, dude. I can't sniff anything right now. A dog could sniff, what I had for breakfast.
Yeah, but
if I have COVID.
I hate it. I don't like it. I
think the next story. It
seems like an absurdly slippery slope.
The next story to come in this series is
here's a question. Okay. Now you obviously don't have the answer to this, but I think it's a legit question. If you go to a game and you get sniffed by the dog, is that an implied agreement with the Heat that, let's just say you go to the game and you get COVID and you get really sick? Can you go back and get sue the team because the dog said you didn't have COVID?
Oh, if you get through, you're saying?
Yeah, if the dog says you don't have COVID.
Oh, I didn't even think about
the game.
Well, no, I'm sure your
other
ticket,
people,
the back of your ticket and that small print probably waives all liability.
Okay, here's the thing. Okay, right? I guess my question is this: if 2,000 people go to a Heat game, that means 2,000 people got by the dogs, right? Mm-hmm. The dogs let them in. Who let them in? Who let them in?
The dogs did, Joey.
The dogs let them in. Okay, so 2,000 people go to a Heat game because the dogs let them in. Next day, wake up in cold sweats, shivering. Got COVID. Right? Well, that means somebody got let in with COVID because that dog didn't get it right. Now, what happens? Am I able to go to the Heat and be like, I thought your dogs weren't letting anyone in with COVID, and now I have COVID and I'm sick? How does that
I am betting that on the back of your ticket there's small print that waives their liability to any sort of COVID related issues. But it's a fair question. I don't know. I just, the 95% thing is also 2,000 people, and they're only 95% successful.
Someone has COVID.
Rather than be 99.9. But, dude, It's 2021, dude. We got to leverage the power of the beast and get people in these seats, dude.
Well, I think that's a good way to end it.
Yeah.
Leverage the power of the beast. I think it's like maybe a tagline for the podcast now.
Yes.
NBA Morning Deuce, leveraging the power of the beast. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't buy it. So I guess my overreaction was that COVID-sniffing dogs will save the NBA season, but I don't agree with my
Fine, that will be my overreaction then.
Okay.
I'll contribute one. They will save this season.
Like, are these dogs going to start sniffing players?
That's a good question. Depending on how accurate they were, why wouldn't you? It's 1,000 times cheaper, I would imagine. You get one dog sniffing everybody in 2 seconds, and you're good.
Yeah, I don't know. All right, I think that's it. I think we're good. The Knicks are actually
The Knicks have made this a game.
They're making this a game, but either way, we're not going to sit here and go through it. If something crazy happens, we can bring it up tomorrow quickly. 25.
Catch you up tomorrow.
Yeah. Tomorrow is going to be an interesting episode. Just for people that are, just so you're aware, Tuesday is, so tomorrow night, obviously Monday night, we record for Tuesday morning. Tuesday is the anniversary of the death of Kobe Bryant. It was 1 year ago Tuesday. So tomorrow night, we'll probably talk about the games very briefly, but I think we're going to do like a little tribute episode since we didn't have a podcast back then, and also probably would have been tough to do back then. It's still going to be tough to do, at least for me. I was watching, ESPN did a tribute show for Kobe today, and it was not, I had trouble watching it still. That's what we're going to do tomorrow. It'll be a good episode, but it may not be the easiest one, at least for me to do.
Yeah.
So, but tune in. That's something you're into. I don't know.
A good plug. Yeah, no, it's a good plug. No, I think it'll be a good show.
Yeah. So, all right. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a good night. Later.